moving forwards. Okay, the only other thing I actually wanted to touch on, which is slightly different, um, is actually what's been going on at the Daily Wire, which has been very interesting. So I mentioned a few videos ago the interesting shift within the right, as the left has been quite pro-Palestinian and quite anti Israel for years now. Despite that, Biden, well, when we say anti-Israel, we're talking about the left of the left. The centrists seem quite aligned with Israel, and that's Biden's camp, and John Kirby. They all seem 100% aligned, but that's because they get a lot of their money from APAC, so they're ideologically aligned, but they're also pocket-wise aligned because the US is a pay-for-play system, right? You can buy the Congress to do your bidding, and if you have a lot of money, like the Israel lobby does, then you're going to end up having a lot of politicians on your side. However, the Democratic base is much more pro-Palestinian. However, what we've actually seen on the right is a bit of a schism. So you on the right, I'll sort of put this into two camps. You have the Ben Shapiro camp, the neocons, sort of, more centrist right wingers who support the Iraq War, support the Afghanistan War, are quite pro-war focused, pro-Israel to the hilt. Whatever they do, however they do it. And then you also have the sort of more libertarian, freedom-based, free speech sort of non-interventionist right-wingers, and those are like Tucker Carlson's, you have the Dave Smiths, Alex Jones, these sort of characters. And there's been a bit of a schism. And none more than what has actually happened with Candace Owens at the Daily Wire. So Candace hasn't been particularly fond of Israeli policy. All she really did say was that it's sad when Israeli kids die and it's sad when Palestinian kids die. But obviously, for the pro-Zionists, that's not exactly a line that you can cross. You have to be full till the hilt when it comes to Israel and ideologically aligned. She was also had a bit of back and forth with that Rabbi Shmuley, who is like, if you ever wanted to create, honestly, if you ever wanted to create a reason for anti-Semitism, it's him. Okay. He's like the worst thing. He's like the worst PR you can possibly find for Zionism or Jews or Israelis anywhere in the world. Like, he is off the charts insane. But she also had a discussion with Rabbi Barkley, who was also pretty unhinged, who said some pretty wild statements about forcing us to kill Palestinian children, or that the Holocaust is only unique and the Jews are only unique in their suffering in comparison to all the other genocides across the world. So Rwandan genocide, Bosnian genocide, Bolshevik Revolution, which killed a bunch of Russians, we can go on. There's a lot of atrocities, Native Americans, what's going on in Palestine right now. So there's a lot of things that have happened to a lot of people, but there's this like sort of uniqueness that they put on the sort of Jewish struggle, and they say that nothing else comes close to it. And for that reason, you have to be ironclad in the support and the murdering of Palestinians today and the annexation of the territory in the West Bank, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So Candace has been pushing back on that a little bit. When I say a little bit, quite a bit actually. And it led to her actual firing, or maybe they parted ways, but it appears that she's been removed from the Daily Wire. And this has brought a lot of controversy about the free speech aspect of the right wing. Notoriously, Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro, these characters were all about facts over feelings. They're all about no censorship, where the only place where you can't have censorship only exists on the left. MSNBC is wrong for firing such and such. New York Times is wrong for signing such and such, etc., etc., etc. Their whole basis, one of their main tenets of what they are as an institution, Daily Wire, seem to be based on free speech, if you listen to what they had to say. And that's along with a lot of people on the right. Ron DeSantis, the governor, was against DEI, and now he's got DEI for Jewish students. So, despite the fact that they are the most overrepresented group in all fields, has DEI on campus now, but he was against it for all other reasons. Right, just hypocrisy all around. It's been odd watching what's been going on in the right and how people have become unhinged when it comes to free speech, shutting down speech on campuses, etc., etc. So basically, they've become what left wing, the sort of far left was for BLM, and racism, homophobia, etc. They've basically put it with anti-Semitism. So now all Jews are meant to have DEI, or they're meant to have no criticism, or there's no criticism of the Israeli state. So they've kind of made the same thing as they made on the right, whilst parading around as free speech advocates, which in my opinion leads me to believe that they are not for free speech, but they're actually for speech that they agree with. And they will use the free speech mantra as long as it supports their ideology. But if it doesn't, then they will throw away those tools. But on the other side of that, you have people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens who've raised their eyebrows a bit about that and been like, well, free speech exists across all things at all times, and you can criticize anything. And it's been interesting seeing how they've come up and bumped up against other people on the right and saying, no, you can't speak about this, etc., etc. So I want to show you a video real quick. It's quite a short video, but this is Ben Shapiro talking about some of the reasoning behind Candace Owens being fired.
Can you at least talk?
So let's have a look.
To just sort of where it's at now.
She's free to do whatever she wants to do, to be wherever she wants to be. When it comes to the host on the Daily Wire, obviously everyone is able to say what they want. Nobody ever comes to me and says you can't say X. Nobody ever says that to Walsh. No one ever said that to Candace. But the reality is that there is an Overton window at the Daily Wire. Obviously, there was a non-meeting of the minds. That's pretty much all I can say on this. Daily Wire has a very strong editorial position on a wide variety of issues. And by the way, I should say that there are a lot of people who are suggesting this is about disagreements over Israel. I mean, I can safely say it is not about disagreements over Israel, to the extent that, without reference to Candace at all here, Matt Walsh has taken the position that America ought not be involved in the Middle East at all. That's just a pure isolationist position. I disagree with it. I think it's wrong. I think that it's short-sighted. But again, he's on our platform. That is well within the range of acceptable discourse at the Daily Wire.
Can you at least talk to just sort of where?
Okay. Interesting, right? Okay, so he mentioned something about an Overton window. So he said, essentially within the Overton window, there are a series of ideas that you can have on the Daily Wire. And if you come within those ideas, then we're happy to have you as an editorial position, and et cetera, et cetera. And those are sort of Overton window is, anything from, I fully ideologically back Israel. However, I don't want them to necessarily take our money or be funded or us to be militarily involved there physically, to Israel is the best thing in the world. Back them to the hill, whatever they want, whatever money, etc., etc. Though that's the spectrum of opinions that's allowed at the Daily Wire. And he mentions Matt Walsh, who's an anti-interventionist, but he still is supportive of Israel. He just doesn't want cold, hard cash going to Israel. So that's interesting. So that's the Overton window. And when he says Overton window, what he really means is like a spectrum of ideas that's acceptable. So how's this any different to any other media corporation that he's been criticizing over the years? MSNBC will fire someone because they don't come within a spectrum of ideas. If you are too critical of the Democrat politicians at the time, you'll be fired from the MSNBC. If the New York Times has a series of opinions that are within a spectrum, right? If they fire someone that's not within that spectrum, then that's within their right, according to Ben Shapiro's idea, what this Overton window that he's talking about. So this is interesting. This is just pure hypocrisy, right? So all this time about, all these videos regarding censorship, free speech, removing people from media corporations, editorial positions, etc., to become in line with a certain opinion, he's behind. So he's not against censorship. He's not against it at all. He's a hypocrite. He's actually a hypocrite. And it's been interesting seeing the downfall in terms of how this has been perceived on the right wing. It's been like a bit of a, oh, moment, like, oh, wow, really? This is what's going on sort of moment. And it's been interesting seeing how it's been perceived across, if you look at Twitter, it's like a firestorm right now. People calling him the Israeli Wire, the Daily Jewish Wire, etc., etc. So yeah, this will be interesting. I think I'll be honest. I don't think Ben Shapiro or any of this hosts actually really have much in common with the audience base that they have garnered. Ben Shapiro is a sort of Jew from California who, is very interventionist. He wasn't against the Iraq War. He wasn't against COVID mandates. So you can see his ideas are very much more centrist, much more liberal, actually, weirdly enough, apart from his religious, obviously, perspectives. But in terms of his political ideas, seem a lot more inclined with sort of Bill Mayers and, much more centrist people. He seems more ideologically in line with a Joe Biden than he seems, say, a Tucker Carlson. Or even I guess a Trump, because Trump is, it's hard to think what Trump's actually thinking at the time, but he doesn't seem particularly aligned with wars. And, the base doesn't seem to want wars. They want to shut down the border. They want to focus on American issues and things happening in America and etc. So, it'll be interesting to watch, but I'll hazard a guess that I think a large amount of people will be following Candace Owens off that platform. By the way, Candace was on par with Ben Shapiro as the biggest person on that platform. Not even close. I mean, I was watching this guy, his name's Andrew Clavin. Never even heard of him before until he was speaking about this Crisis King sort of, like, I never even heard of him. So, it's a bit of a shot in their own foot, but if they want to, and what's clear is Israel is the number one priority at that platform. Everything else is a second. They can make fun of LGBT people all day, trannies, racism, black people, etc., etc. But once it comes to that Israel minefield, it's no, we can't do that. We can't do that. So it's been interesting, but yeah, I'll catch you guys later on. We'll look a bit about this issue and the schism on the right a bit more in detail. But it's been very interesting, especially that Tucker Carlson interview with that Palestinian from Bethlehem. That was interesting as well. It's interesting times at the moment. But yeah, anyways, see you guys later, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.